Tonight, 50 cases, a teenager in ICU, and we're being told the worst is still to come. Tell the truth. A frustrated Premier warns lying to contact tracers will only prolong lockdown. Stay at home. But the shops are open. The mixed messages causing confusion and heartache. Also tonight, a family carjacked at Maryland's, a dramatic arrest at Silverwater, and kilometres of chaos in between. Plus, we go deep into Ash Barty's camp, just hours out from her shop at Wimbledon Glory.
This is 9 News with Mark Burrows.
Good evening. 50. It's a milestone no one wanted to see. But today, Sydney has hit that number of new COVID infections picked up in the community. The Premier warned it's within the four walls of the family home where the deadly virus is spreading.
Sydney, it isn't good.
Last night to 8 p.m. we had 50 cases.
29 are from the southwest, 16 from the southeast. More than half, 26 COVID positive people have been out of isolation across all corners of the city, spreading it to those closest.
Out of those 50 cases, the vast majority of those cases, and I can't stress this enough, are close family or friends of people who have COVID. If you truly love your parents, your sisters, your best friends, please stick to the rules.
On the day we were supposed to get our freedom back, marking 2 weeks of lockdown, there are 47 people in hospital with COVID. 5 need a ventilator to help them breathe. 16 are in intensive care, including a person in their 20s, and overnight, a teenager.
COVID is a severe disease associated with hospitalisation and tragically in some circumstances death.
Of the 47 in hospital, New South Wales health data shows 37 of them haven't received a vaccination. The 5 who are fully vaccinated are the aged care residents of Summit Care in hospital only as a precaution. Another 5 patients have received their first dose of either AstraZeneca or Pfizer, but not their second.
So in summary, no one who has received 2 doses is in hospital.
There were more than 42,000 tests yesterday. Queues on a drizzly Sydney day, not as long as health authorities would like. 50 infections today, 44 yesterday. A cluster which started with 1 on June 16, now at 489. Contact tracers are doing their best to piece together movements and put exposed people into isolation, but it's hard. The truth isn't always forthcoming.
One message I really want to get across to people who have been diagnosed with COVID: please tell us the truth the first time round.
At the moment, as we're trying to get ahead of the spread of the virus, we haven't got time to waste unpicking stories, going back and cross-checking and verifying. We know that everyone is human and makes poor decisions. Please don't compound that initial mistake by not telling us the truth the first time.
Across the city, in pairs, in parks, 2 by 2, for exercise only. At Centennial Park, they did the lockdown lap. At Coogee, a rain-soaked run or a dose of vitamin C. And at Manly and the Bay Run, the tonic for the cooped up and stir-crazy. In Maryland's, barely movement on the streets. Liverpool too, an empty footy field. And Fairfield, deserted. While at the epicentre of the outbreak, Bondi, the party is well and truly over. Exercise, one of the very few reasons to leave the house, only permitted in your local government area or within 10 kilometres of home. But carrying ID, for now, isn't required.
Can I please urge people to look inside themselves, to really dig deep into their own consciences and do the right thing. If not for yourself, think about your closest loved ones. Forget about the rest of us.
We need everyone to stay hunkered down this weekend.
So for now, it's lockdown life, and no sign it's ending soon.
And Lizzie is with me at the desk tonight. Lizzie, a major city shopping centre, now an exposure site.
Yeah, Mark, it's Broadway at Ultimo. A COVID positive case was there on Thursday for around 2 hours between 12 and 2 p.m. This afternoon, checking in was being done very carefully by a lot of the stores there, while the person visited the Kmart, JB Hi-Fi, Coles Aldi, Harvey Norman and Liquorland all on July 8. The whole centre is now considered a contact location. What's helped is that customer was wearing a mask and checking in at each store. Other venues for close contacts which have just come in the last few minutes include Direct Trade at Maryland's, that is for last Saturday, Freshness for Less at Fairfield on Sunday. At Chipping Norton, it's Benedict Recycling, that is for Monday. Also, barbecues galore at Penrith on Tuesday. Also Tuesday, the Butcher Shed, that is in the Moorebank Shopping Centre. There's Bupa Dental at Miranda for Wednesday. And Thursday, an alert has gone out for Chemist Warehouse in Punchbowl. There are hundreds of alerts now, Mark, so it's a good idea to check that New South Wales Health website and do it daily. OK, Lizzie, thank you. As millions of residents are being told not to leave home unless it's for essentials, questions are now being asked as to why some stores are allowed to remain open. There's confusion in the community, but the message tonight, browsing is not allowed.
A compliance crackdown at Casula Mall. Police looking for locals flouting the rules, and they found it. This woman caught without wearing a mask. She was given a warning and a move-along order. But while you can't sit, it seems you can still shop.
It's pretty obvious. If you need to buy a essential white good, or you might need to buy a baby product, it is a fine line, but we're appealing to people not to leave home unless you absolutely have to.
With the city in lockdown, some stores are still rolling open. At Bankstown Central, electronics, jewellery and handbag stalls getting ready for trade, sending mixed messages to shoppers under stay-at-home orders. Here in the main pedestrian mall in Liverpool, you've got a clothing shop next to a $2 shop and an electrical shop, all enticing customers to come in, leaving it up to the individual to decide if this sort of shopping is essential or not.
The government can't control every single private or non-government organisation or business. But what we can do is appeal to people.
People like one new COVID case who visited 7 different furniture shops over the space of 2 hours in Campbelltown last Sunday. And with more than half of today's new cases in Sydney's southwest, bolstered forces were on the beat with compliance checks in Fairfield and Greenfield Park.
It's better that they patrol it, not us. I've had customers complain to me saying there's customers not wearing masks, but we can't enforce it, the police have to.
With the Delta strain having found a new hunting ground, Stockland Wetherill Park was mostly quiet. But of concern, so too was the local testing site. Community leaders now trying to drive home the message to their 800,000 residents from 90 different ethnic backgrounds.
The communication's not as good as it should be. The government's had 18 months to get this right.
I think the government needs to look at different ways to make people comfortable and get the right information out so we can all control this together.
Ellie Walsh, 9 News.
With no end date for this crippling lockdown, the state's treasurer is tonight poring over plans to extend his economic rescue package. Dominic Perrottet says all measures are on the table, but he still wants significant input from the federal government.
Parked up after 35 years on the road, the latest lockdown has put the brakes on the Blue Mountains Explorer bus fleet.
Leading up to the July school holidays, we had a little glimmer of hope that we were able to turn a profit once again, and we haven't made a profit for the last 18 months.
But when the Bondi wave cut the domestic tourism lifeline yet again, it proved fatal.
With no JobKeeper and no extra support, we just had to really close down the Explorer bus to effectively try and save the rest of the business.
It should be a red flag for both state and federal governments that without propping up businesses during lockdowns, the measure will eventually cause total shutdowns.
Everything from rent relief to income support to tax relief has got to be on the table if our businesses are going to have a chance to survive this lockdown.
That's now all on the table to top up the state's initial pledge of up to $10,000 for small businesses.
We're currently working really closely with business, with industry groups to put together another package that will support our previous grants.
Australia is a dual-engine economy, and with Sydney out, we're running on one. July last year, when Melbourne was in a prolonged lockdown, businesses fell back on JobKeeper. This time, that safety net is not there. And with the national economy on the line, shuttered retailers think this is a Commonwealth problem.
We're at a point now, this is beyond state government, and we need the federal government to step in to support specifically New South Wales, given what the New South Wales government is currently dealing with.
Two things sting small businesses: rent and wages. 9 News understands the state government is looking at a rent relief plan, but the federal government is refusing to budge on reinstating JobKeeper. The Commonwealth does offer a weekly lockdown payment of $500 through Centrelink for anyone who's lost more than 20 hours work, and $325 for less than that, mainly to cover casuals.
It's a difficult time. It's tough for many businesses and workers right across the state, but together we're going to get through it.
Liz Daniels, 9 News.
Parties, hotel stays, refusal to wear masks. We've seen a record number of people busted for breaching COVID rules in the past 24 hours. Tiffany Genders joins me in the studio. Tiff, break it down for us.
Well, Mark, the great majority of people are leading by example, but there's a handful who believe lockdown doesn't apply to them. A noise complaint blew the lid on a prayer gathering of 8 men at Randwick, one found hiding behind a shower curtain in the bathroom. An 18th birthday party also busted at the entrance on the Central Coast, an expensive night in, all copping $1,000 fines. And can you believe there are still people booking nights away at hotels? 6 guests sent packing from the Meriton on Kent Street after they failed to provide a decent reason for their stay. The number of breaches have spiked to a record 167 in 24 hours. That's more than double Monday's figure. Almost 70 fines issued in our southwest, where police have upped patrols. Officers are expanding their focus to the Shire, Sutherland, Hurstfield, Janali and Miranda, now on notice with blitzes on supermarkets, shopping centres and the streets. Mark, as COVID cases continue to rise, patience is wearing thin.
Tiff, thank you. Well, Victoria Police has also bolstered its resources monitoring our border from the air and on the ground. There's a checkpoint at Chiltern just off the Hume Highway where officers are checking permits. The heavy presence and the risk of $5,500 acting as a warning to anyone hoping to cross over illegally. Well, 9 million jabs have now been given across Australia, with the GP rollout slowly gathering pace. 500 GP clinics have come online this week, including Green Square Health at Waterloo, which finally received supply today to begin dispensing Pfizer vaccinations. And as you can see, demand was strong.
There were over 300 bookings made in the first hour, and since then we've been receiving calls non-stop.
1,500 GPs nationwide will administer Pfizer by the end of this month. A pilot program allowing vaccinated Aussies to quarantine at home is raising hopes those stranded overseas could be reunited with loved ones by Christmas. If the trial is successful, home quarantine could be used across the country by the end of the year.
Expat Ruma Burnett has just returned from a holiday in Italy, swapping the beaches of Positano for the living room of her Bournemouth apartment.
In the UK, we have to get back in quarantine for 10 days after we travel to an amber list country.
Now Australia is looking to follow suit. Defence Force members and Paralympians returning from Tokyo in September, the first to trial home quarantine in South Australia.
If it can work, then our ability to be able to expand on that, I think it will be a real game changer.
The pilot program will only include those who have been fully vaccinated in Australia. They'll need to spend 14 days at home and will be monitored using GPS tracking on a mobile phone app.
People will be so happy to be able to quarantine at home that I think compliance would be very high.
After hotel quarantine leaks sparked multiple outbreaks this year, some epidemiologists believe this option could be safer.
If you quarantine at home for 7 days, the risk is actually lower than if you quarantine in a media hotel for 14 days, as long as you're fully vaccinated.
If we can continue down that track, then ultimately it would be wonderful to be able to see home quarantine being used in the lead up to Christmas.
Eliza Edwards, 9 News.
Police are on the scene in Cogra tonight after the bodies of an elderly couple were found. Officers were called to Payne Street about 5 this evening. Inside the home, they found a man and woman both deceased. How they died is not yet known. Well, there's been drama in Western Sydney this afternoon. 3 arrests, 2 stolen cars and a high-speed police chase spanning from Fairfield to Liverpool and as far as the Blue Mountains. Young families were caught up in the chaos, one of them threatened with a machete.
Swarmed by police on a Silverwater corner. Suspect number 1 is yanked from a smashed-up stolen car. He's pinned to the ground and stripped of his possessions before being bundled into a van. An innocent family almost wiped out by the runaway driver. Parents and their 2 boys, aged 5 months and 2.5, checked over by paramedics.
Just on the set of lights, standing still, and I just felt this collision and went out to just make my kids the priority to make sure that they're okay. I don't really know what happened.
It was an undercover officer who brought an end to the high-speed, hair-raising ride, crashing into the BMW on the Cumberland Highway just after 4. Pol Air had been on its tail for 3 hours after the vehicle was stolen at knife point from a Guildford street. The chopper called for reinforcement and help multiplied by the minute. Lights, sirens and even a message to the masses on Twitter. A warning from the New South Wales police page for people to keep an eye out for the black BMW being driven dangerously in the Greater Sydney area. The chase went as far as the Blue Mountains, up and down the M4, also looping through Fairfield and Liverpool. 3 arrests in total and a mess left in their wake. Tiffany Genders, 9 News.
Ash Barty is just hours away from fulfilling her childhood dream, walking onto centre court for the Ladies' Wimbledon final. Karianne Greenback joins us from the All England Club. Karianne, Ash doesn't appear to be overawed by the occasion.
Well, for a 25-year-old who's 1 match away from creating tennis history, Mark, it seems not much phases Ash Barty at all. She's been out on the practice courts appearing calm, relaxed, meticulous, very much in control and very much focused on the final, not the fact that she could be the first Australian woman to take out a Wimbledon title in 41 years. In just under 5 hours, Ash Barty will take on world number 13, Karolina Pliskova. It is set to be a nail-biting final and fans are going to be a little bit nervous up until that point. But for Ash Barty, it's been a remarkable journey just to get to this point. We've been speaking with her coach, Craig Tyser, who revealed just how close she came to not being able to play here at Wimbledon at all. We'll bring you that interview later in the bulletin. Mark?
Karianne, thank you. Well, time now for a look at today's weather. Natalia, how much rain did we see?
Good evening to you, Mark. Coastal suburbs have had the most while it was drier out west. Since 9 a.m, Manly has received 16 millimetres, so too has Avoca on the Central Coast. 12 millimetres has fallen at Mona Vale, 9 in the city. Parramatta only recorded 2, while suburbs like Penrith have had nothing at all. It was windy on the coast as well, a gust of 91 kilometres an hour at Watamolla and 72 at Kurnell. The city had a chilly top of 14.1, while it was a warmer 17.5 in our west. Showers tomorrow will again be mainly in the east. Details later in the bulletin. Mark.
Natalia, see you then. One of a string of suburbs targeted thanks to intelligence from an app created by the FBI. It's Villawood. What police have found next. Watch as a carnival ride starts rocking off its axis. A tiny ray of light from the rubble in Miami. And we remember entertainer Jonathan Coleman, who's lost his battle with cancer.